It's amazing that I don't already have a review of these on my channel, and I'm pretty sure most of you know that I love Indiana Jones, and I'm pretty sure most of you know that I love the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a classic movie. It's a masterpiece. I'm pretty sure almost everyone does love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, it's almost impossible not to love it. And I recently noticed that this year was the 30th anniversary of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So I decided, why not finish off reviewing the rest of the other movies in one video? Yeah, I will be reviewing Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, The Last Crusade, and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull. Keep in mind that each review is probably going to be like 5 minutes long. I'm going to be talking about each movie for like maybe 5 minutes, and then after each movie we're going on to the next one and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get started off with the first one, which is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom revolves around the story of Jones, once again, a singer and an orphan kid, go on a journey in India to search for a mystical stone. But trouble soon lurks nearby, because there are a cult of men who commit sacrifices. And this leads Jones to another exciting but very dangerous adventure. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is a very fun movie. I love the cinematography in this movie. I love the way this movie is written. I absolutely love a lot of things about this movie. This isn't a perfect movie, but this is a very great movie. Harrison Ford is phenomenal as Indiana Jones. He's awesome, he's funny, and he has a lot of charisma. I also liked Ke Huy Quan as Short Round in this film, and you can tell that he's been in a relationship. He's had a huge relationship with Jones for a while. This boy is just an orphan kid, and this was the first Indiana Jones film where we'd see a kid interact on an adventure with Indiana Jones. And Huy Quan was honestly really great in this movie, especially for a young child actor. Now let's talk about Kate Capshaw, who is probably my least favorite actor in this movie. And it's not her fault. Her acting is pretty good. Her acting is really good in this movie. She does a really great job. I thought her character was kind of annoying, though, and a little weird. There were times where this character would just scream a lot and get scared of so many things, and it just got to me a little bit. I don't know. It's not Kate Capshaw's fault, because like I said, she delivers a really good performance. It's just her character just got kind of under my skin. There wasn't much to her. And there were even times in this movie, like later on in the movie, where she got a little flirty with Indiana Jones. I mean, the other characters in other Indiana Jones films, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, get flirty with Indiana Jones, like Marion. But Marion is a character that we actually love, because she works as a great side partner for Indiana Jones. And Marion and Indy and Raiders of the Lost Ark have amazing chemistry. And I wanted to see Kate Capshaw's character in this film to have a lot more to do in this film than to just be sort of a damsel in distress, I guess. But considering her character as a singer, I guess that kind of makes sense. Another thing that I really like about the Temple of Doom is how unique and how different it is from Raiders of the Lost Ark. This film is different from story, it is different from tone. This film was a lot more darker than Raiders of the Lost Ark was. And Raiders of the Lost Ark was pretty dark, especially for its time. And, you know, in the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, you have scenes where, like, people are shooting at each other. You have car chase sequences, bodies being set on fire. And in the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Nazis' faces were melting. Yeah, and that movie is rated PG. This film sort of upgrades that a little bit. This movie is a little more violent, and it's a little more darker too. And that's what I really loved about Temple of Doom. It managed to be different by tone, add new characters, have a new story, and this film sets before Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, this film is technically a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I thought it worked. Is it as good as the original Raiders of the Lost Ark? No, It's not. But Temple of Doom is a very different movie, and I respect it for that. And I guess my last full issue that I have with this movie is there are some elements, I guess only like maybe a few elements in the story that feel wasted, and it's probably sometime during the midpoint of the film or when the second act is going to begin. And you can tell that there's a slow burn somewhere in the film, and you could sort of feel it. But it's not really anything that I hated. I just found it to be a flaw. I didn't really hate it because, like I said, the story in this film is very unique. And I honestly really like Temple of Doom. It is definitely a fantastic film and easily one of the best in the Indiana Jones franchise. This film was original in regards to being a sequel and a prequel. It's a very fun movie with very great characters, an amazing suspense, and thrilling sequences. And I gotta say, Steven Spielberg directed the crap out of this movie. This movie looks gorgeous. The shots in this film are amazing. The motion capture work for when everyone is moving and stuff like that, and even in the environments. Like just in the first Raiders of the Lost Ark, this film is beautifully shot. Spielberg knows how to direct a film. And he really knocked it out of the park on this one. And it's honestly no surprise, because this guy's made a lot of great movies. I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom an A-. Now let's get to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This film was released in 1989 and was directed by Steven Spielberg once again. And in this film, the story revolves around Indiana Jones once again, who is on a journey to find his father. And once he does find his father, they both have to go on an exciting but dangerous adventure to race the Nazis towards the Holy Grail. The Last Crusade is probably the last perfect Indiana Jones film we will ever receive. This film is honestly a masterpiece. It is just as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark is still the best one in my opinion. Nothing can beat that. But The Last Crusade has everything going for it. This movie is exciting. It has an amazing story, and the chemistry between Indy and his father, Henry Jones, is fantastic. And their chemistry grows and develops throughout the entire runtime of the film as they're going through this journey on this epic adventure towards the Holy Grail. This film absolutely looks magnificent. The cinematography in this film is absolutely outstanding. And the first three Indiana Jones movies have amazing cinematography. They absolutely look and feel realistic. And the motion capture work that's done in this film is absolutely on point. Steven Spielberg has directed this movie magnificently. He is able to create amazing shots and that are so genius and well thought out throughout this amazing journey. Easily the best thing about this movie is the relationship with Indy and his father. We get to see them interact with each other a lot. We get to see them caring for one another. And we get to see them team up together. And those are honestly the best elements of the film. I absolutely loved that. What is there to say about Harrison Ford? He is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And Sean Connery is very great in this film as well. Just by his performance alone, you can tell that Connery was absolutely having a great time being in this film. And for good reason. His character is very set up. The story is amazing, the directing is on point, and he gets to work with Harrison Ford. You can't really get better than that. That's amazing. And these two actors worked together so well in this film to deliver amazing performances. And it's not a surprise from Harrison Ford because we've seen Harrison Ford in so many things. The Star Wars movies, and even in the Indiana Jones films. And we've loved him since the beginning. And we still love him today. But Connery made this film a lot better. Sean Connery really did an excellent job as Indy's father in this film. He did a really great job as Henry Jones. And of course, let's talk about the amazing plot twist in this film, where Indy finds out that his partner Dr. Elsa, who's played by Alison Doody, is actually working with the Nazis to go after the Holy Grail. Honestly, a very great twist, and it happens not too long through later in the film. It doesn't take that long for the plot twist to actually happen, but it is an absolutely great twist. And I thought Alison Doody really did deliver in this film. Her performance was really good. And of course, let's not forget the iconic score from John Williams, which I forgot to mention the score in the Temple of Doom one, but still, John Williams creates one of the most iconic scores ever. Dun, 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 dun. It's been in the beginning, since Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's an amazing theme. It's iconic. It's adventurous. It's thrilling. It's exciting. And it represents Indiana Jones. And it's not just the score, but the soundtrack alone in The Last Crusade is absolutely phenomenal. It is honestly fantastic on how Spielberg was able to make this film. This film is fantastically well made. And it's honestly insane, because rarely do we ever get a third sequel that lives up to the original film. The action sequences are absolutely jaw-dropping in this film. And just like in Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom, the action sequences in this film are magnificent. They are absolutely well done. And these action sequences are just thought out, and they're fun to watch. You can tell that the filmmakers weren't rushing while trying to set up the action sequences in this film. There's a scene in this film, and just in case you haven't seen this movie, I'm going to spoil a scene so you know what to do. There's a scene in this film that involves a boat chase sequence where Indy and Dr. Elsa are in a boat and they're being chased by the Nazis. And that sequence is honestly very highly effective. And it's not just that sequence, but all the action sequences in this film are absolutely incredible. There's even an airplane sequence and car chase sequences. And I'm telling you, this film is just filled with excitement. The Last Crusade is a phenomenally well-made film. It is the last perfect Indiana Jones film we will probably ever receive. It really lives up to the first Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it is, without a doubt, one of Steven Spielberg's masterpieces. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade gets an A+. Now we're moving on to the last film in the Indiana Jones series, which is easily the worst one. But I wouldn't say this film is terrible, in my opinion at least. This is just my least favorite Indiana Jones film. And it's not really great. It is good enough in my opinion, but it's just not great. Let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And in this film, the story revolves around Indiana Jones, who is once again on a journey, but this time to uncover the secrets about these mysterious artifacts known as the Crystal Skull, and must get to it before the Soviets do, because once they do, they'll be able to obtain power which might affect the entire West. Indiana Jones and the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Sorry, I stuttered there for a little bit. But the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is honestly not that bad of a movie. Some people actually say this movie is terrible. Like complete garbage. I find this movie to be somewhat enjoyable. I do enjoy this movie for the most part, at least. It's not an amazing movie like the first three Indiana Jones films. It's not a great movie. This is just a good enough movie. I guess if you really don't mind this movie, you can watch it and have fun with it, but it's not as good as the first three movies. Harrison Ford is easily the best thing in this movie. His acting is really great once again. And he's still charismatic. He's everything that we've known from him. And this movie was released in 2008, so that's actually saying something. Harrison Ford still got it. Cate Blanchett honestly does a really good job in this film as Irina Spalko, but she's probably the weakest villain in the series. In my opinion, she didn't have much motive to her. She really didn't. And the other villains in the other Indiana Jones films had motive. And it was almost like they just found someone to just challenge Indiana Jones in this film. Which is what they do in the other Indiana Jones films. But the other villains in the other films actually have motives. But honestly, Blanchett's performance was honestly pretty good. And it was honestly nice to see Karen Allen return again as Marion. She is really good in this film too. Shia LaBeouf was honestly pretty good in this movie too. The performances aren't that great. I mean, they're not amazing. Honestly, the two great actors in this film are Harrison Ford and Karen Allen. The other performances are just either good or okay, and a couple of them could be forgettable sometimes. And one thing that the film lost, I think, with its potential was making the villain seem like an actual threat, like the Soviets. To me, they didn't really feel that threatening. And I sort of mentioned that before, but to me, they didn't really feel that threatening. And I guess it's mostly due to the writing in this film. The writing isn't that great in this film. It's not Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Last Crusade. Honestly, the writing is kind of poor in this film. I'd have to say they do try with the cinematography. Steven Spielberg's direction is honestly acceptable in this film. There are honestly really good shots in this film. During some action sequences, Steven Spielberg has some really good shots in this film. They're not amazing shots, but I guess sometimes the direction did lack in this film. Most of the time, actually. And I couldn't really tell what Spielberg was going for. I did like the background scenery. Sometimes it did feel like sets, honestly. Sometimes it did feel like the characters were on sets. And it kind of got to me a little bit, which is another thing that I noticed in this film. The characters seem to have clean costumes. Absolutely pitch perfect clean, which is kind of weird, considering this film is an adventurous film. The other three films, they made the costume designs look absolutely dirty and ugly, and that's what made it feel realistic. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull absolutely has clean costume designs. Perfect. And I didn't really like that. And I just want to talk about a scene that I found kind of interesting but ridiculous at the same time. And it's during a chase sequence. And if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. This sequence involves humans and ants. The sequence was kind of ridiculous. It was weird, but I took it a little bit. It was kind of scary, but it didn't really make sense, honestly. And the fact that there was too much of it, it got more ridiculous. And I was like, is this really necessary? But I eventually got over it, and the rest of the movie after that is kind of enjoyable. I like how they put Mutt as sort of like a side helper for Indy. I thought that was kind of interesting. It was sort of predictable that his mother was Marion. I mean, I'm pretty sure he even says that sometime in the point of the film. And then what came to my mind is his mother's Marion, and it has to be Marion. Which, honestly, Marion isn't as interesting in this film as she was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but still, Karen Allen delivers an excellent performance in this film. I also like how this film did the decision to not add the Nazis again, because if you think about it, it would be sort of repetitive, since the Nazis were in Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. The main antagonists in the film were the Soviets. And I love how this film decided to have different villains and even a different story. Even if the story didn't work that well, I love how this film was enjoyable enough, at least, and has some good performances, and even some okay direction. But it really doesn't hold up when you compare it to the other three films. And it's because this film suffers from so many plot holes and story issues. And I thought there were a few performances that were lacking. And even some ideas that I thought were quite interesting, but weren't executed all that great. But I'm not saying this is a terrible movie. Honestly, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is actually kind of entertaining. I kind of like this movie. It's good enough. It's not as good as the original three films. It's not as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Temple of Doom, or The Last Crusade. But this film is honestly not that bad. I don't really know why a lot of people complain about this movie and say how it's terrible. It's definitely not a masterpiece. It's definitely not great. It's not a classic like the original three films, but even though this film doesn't stand out that well in the franchise, I kind of like this film for what it is. And I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a B-. thank you guys so much for watching this video. I wanted to finish this because I'm honestly surprised that I don't have a review of these 3 movies on my channel. I mean, I already reviewed Raiders of the Lost Ark like a year ago. And this year's the 30th anniversary of The Last Crusade, so I decided to have all 4 of the movies up on my channel. And I had a really great time talking about all of the Indiana Jones films. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You guys are the best. Love every single one of you. Look forward to more reviews that'll be coming very soon. And as always, I am Mario FanFact20, and I will see you next time. Peace out.